Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the fourth podcast of our wonderful series. I'm joined here by Master Chess Dojo, aka John MacArthur. Today we're going to be talking about all the wonderful things that have happened in the FIDE World Cup, the US Open, and all the wonderful going on of all the things that happened in the chess world. John, welcome.
Thank you, Rogan. Yeah, the World Cup was extremely exciting in the third round. At least several players not have survived, and some amazing Zhu Wenjun on her deathbed, Luva Fatalieva. And Fatalieva not only failed to put her away in the second classical game, but then, amazingly enough, climbed all the way back to Rook and pressed Uleva against the H-file until Uleva had very little time on her clock. She had to decide between h4 to rank 2. And amazingly enough, to my dismay, she chose to move her king toward the corner, which allowed Zhu Wenjun to weave a mating net. And it was all over for Uleva. It was like +8 at one, I think, in her match. Certainly +6 as far as the assessment. She was so totally winning against Zhu Wenjun. And she escaped really, really nicely. So she will be facing Elizabeth Potts in the fourth round after the rest day. And it is tragic, of course, but welcome at the same time to Anna Muzychuk, off former women's world, while former women's world champion Maria Muzychuk took care of Vaishali Rameshbabu in the third round in the two classical games. Didn't make it out of the two classical. The two sisters each other for Ukraine in round 4. And further on in the women's, Teodora Inchak from Serbia, Inyak from Serbia, Shuvova, the FIDE/non-Russian player, is the 12th seed. That's a very exciting match, as Teodora is performing amazingly well for not one of the seeded players. Beyond that, we have Humpy Konaru, the Indian representative in sections, Bela Tanashvili from Georgia. That will be very exciting in the fourth round. And Zhu Jin'er versus Tan Zhongxi, a China-China matchup as far as the sixth in the round of 16. And Eileen Roberts continues her ascent through. And Harika Dronovali should not have made it out of the tiebreak. She again was totally losing. Leila Yakinishvili from Georgia and let her off the hook. That again was a hugely decisive game in the tiebreaker. I believe it was the second rapid game that they were playing, and it was quite incredible that Harika not only survived but managed to win her set. And then we have the fan favorite of the non-Russian FIDE flagged players, Goryachkina. She had an amazing World Cup last year, playing Nino Batsiashvili from Georgia. And that will be a very closely contested match. The second seed that is the closest, perhaps, a women's match. And I take it back, versus Zhu Jin'er. And on the men's side, amazingly enough, there's only one Norwegian left in the tournament. You never guess.
Arantari.
Oh, I'm not sending you out for a lottery ticket.
I'm guessing it's Magnus Carlsen.
And he's playing the young German prodigy, one of two German players still left. And the Turkish player, Shanal, is playing Ivan. The Turkish player, Shanal, has upset his way. He was the 12th seed in the men's division. He has plowed through upset after upset. Zatorov, the Olympic gold medal team star of Uzbekistan, and then he got by Korobov, and now he will be playing Ivanchuk. Crossing my fingers that Ivanchuk handle not being upset by the young Turkish master. Rasmus Vane, the second German in the field, will be playing Wang Hao. Wang Hao, of course, was playing David Howell, a friend, and one of my favorites continued. At least David Howell drew both of the classical games. Terrible record.
Yeah,
he's lost like 5 games.
He's also knocked out David Howell from participation in the candidate at one point.
Yeah, which is very sad, of those 3 spots, right? It's, David Howell's gonna make it one of these days. I know we haven't seen David Howell on, as he was a fan favorite on Twitch. He would visit many streams and pop in and contribute. Really believe that it was him as Howell Hub on Twitch. And Esipenko will be playing the young Indian star Gukesh, the number one player ahead of Anand. Chess show passed it out last podcast. There are 5 Indian players remaining, by the way, and 5 American in the men's, with 32 players playing across 16 brackets. And
I also would recommend not moving
only 2
too much away from your microphone. If you, just keep
really?
consistent.
Okay, well, we'll see what happens.
This will be edited out, don't worry.
Sounds fair. Yep. So Esipenko will be playing Gukesh, who, as David pointed out, is the number one player in India now, ahead of Anand. One of 5 of the USA. We have not yet gotten it. Abbasov, Uzbekistan, is playing Peter Svidler. And Peter Svidler looked like he's plowing through Jordan, but they had 2 classical matches where Peter Svidler off Jordan Venn fairly handily on the white side of a bishop g5 Najdorf with queen e2 at first, and Jordan won on demand in the next classical match, which forced a tiebreak. Svidler then won. So Abbasov, the Uzbekistan player, will be playing non-Russian flagged player Svidler of St. Petersburg, I believe. And Daniel Vocaturo is playing Salem Saleh. Saleh
Beautiful name.
Managed to avoid, Salem Saleh has managed to avoid any upsets. This is not quite seeded start, the third. I believe that the only French remaining player, Etienne Becrow, will be playing Vidit, as Vidit should have lost on more than one occasion to Matthew Bluebaum of Germany. Bluebaum really played well and came back from near death as well himself. One of the game to recover against Vidit and tossed his advantage. Nihal Saran, another Indian player, will be playing. Fabiano Caruana predicted well in advance of World Cup that he'd be playing Ray Robson in the 4th round of America clashing. They are the first of 2 Americans that
it is also important to note that these brackets will be in the show notes, and you can follow along as well, just in case we're not being clear on something.
Good to know. Parab Maksulu is playing Duda, the Polish. I believe he's the number 1 player who does trying to qualify for Canada. Sure that he's narrowly missed it before. And the 3rd American to talk about, Lanier Dominguez, the Czech, who took care of his shitco in the 3rd round, who upset Sam Shank in round. The 4th American to mention, Wesley So, narrowly escaped Jules Broussard. Jules Broussard had a chance to put Wesley So away, from what I recall. He at least had a chance, a serious advantage, but then in one of the tiebreak, he just threw away for a huge kingside pawn structure. Now, in the major piece ending, many players play, and this has been days of Alekhine versus Capablanca. You want a pawn structure of f2, g3, h4, and black had the same pawn structure, f7, g6, h5. And for some inexplicable reason, Broussard lashed out with g4 and then threw away his whole kingside, having solid game with that pawn structure 4. It's tragic, but unfortunate that he had to go out that way. I was really rooting for Jules. As I mentioned in the previous chess podcast, I think I might have posted a selfie, if I haven't yet, on Instagram with him at Society. If you're ever in Paris, by the way, Blitz Society is the place to go. They're everywhere, and for a nominal on your tab, you are able to play chess for an unlimited length of time. Niels Grandelius of Sweden is still alive. It's Santos Latasa, Spain.
Who beat
Glad to see Niels.
Or Jabov, rather.
Rajabov, yes. Santos Latasa upset Rajabov, and Niels Grandelius upset the Egyptian grandmaster Bassem Amin, who had a great World Cup last year.
And now on to section
14. Yep, and Aragazi will be playing Senderov, who I had mistakenly in a previous podcast like incredible villain, whose name still escapes me, but it's very similar.
But not Russian at all.
If you recall what it was.
Syndrome, that's the guy.
And not Russian.
Yeah, not Russian in the slightest.
Exactly. The character portrayed by Jason Lee in The Incredible, of Mr. Incredible. So Sindarov and Aragazi should be a match worth watching. Sindarov is Mark, having gotten by Maxim Vashilagrov in straight games. Yeah, nice upset in straight games in the classic. Former FIDE World Chess Champion Ruslan Ponomariev, Ukraine, one of my favorites, a.k.a. Fato Berkin. I'm glad that Hung still has a World Cup, so that'll be a tight battle between Ponomariev and Berkin.
Quite hungry.
I still remember remember the game Polgar Berkus, the French defense. Polgar made a lot of these players, like Medurov and others, back in the day. They were in their youth. And probably the fan favorite match to watch
Is it
Pragnananda is going to be playing Hikaru Nakamura, North American, in Section 16. It's going to be number 2 versus number 31. Now, Pragna did not get upset so far. His closest match pairing was David Navarra. Yeah, that was quite closely watched. So, unfortunately, as much as I would like to pick Nakamura in that one, I'm kind of, as a previous podcast, I stated that one of these upstarts will pass Kukashika. Now, whether it's Argaisi, Dadi, Pragnananda, we'll see. Keep butchering his name. But aside from that, tomorrow we're recording this on the day before a rest day. And as I've kept in tradition, I'm using yet a different microphone, so I apologize for how I sound. Every single podcast is a different phone until I get it right, or until I like how my voice sounds. We'll see.
We will see. We're A/B testing absolutely
everything. We will see. Now, the best way to watch these matches, honestly, is YouTube. I would watch the chess.com broadcast when they're it is the Chess24 broadcast. You might have YouTube. As much as I love listening to, or in the early rounds, I love listening to FIDE broadcast with Anon. I'm drawing a blank on the streamer from, it's terrible that I'm just suddenly drawing a blank on her name. But she was most famous for having called out the played a match with cheating player
that Indonesian
on
lady.
chess.com. True. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know her name either.
She's been doing the commentary since round 1, and she's doing an incredible job. It will make up for my lack of drawing a blank on her name.
Oh no, it's all right. I draw a blank as well. I mean, we're both jamming here, you know.
Irene Sukandar. Yes, Irene Sukandar. She is doing an amazing job.
Don't worry, John. We'll make it sound like you got it the first time.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. So I'm looking forward to watching the World Cup live as progress. Keep track of. I have not, in the first round, watched all these live because I was flipping back at Chess24 broadcast with Peter Lecco, a fabulous job, and whomever his co-host might be. Daniel Laird, stunning narrative, comment ideas, he should. And Irene Sukandar's various co-hosts, the latest of which escapes me. But earlier she had Anon, and they were great.
Okay.
Rogan?
What did you want me to say? Oh, yes, we're going on to our next news story of the day. Yes, okay. Yes. So we've got a wonderful news piece from Dex. I'm going to reopen the link. We've got a wonderful news story from Dextero.com, which I have no idea who they are, but apparently they're very good at things. Chess content explodes on YouTube with over 4 billion views in 2023. Now, I didn't think this was that big, but apparently it is. Now that I've thought about it, the story we're all here for. 4 billion views in 2023 alone. And a YouTube blog post discussing trends, the site revealed how popular chess has become and the new unique ways content creators have incorporated the game, and then
which is incredible.
And then they cited in this blog comedians in India such as I forget his name, and Ludwig.
Sami Reina?
Sami Reina, yeah, that's the guy. And Ludwig's chess boxing spectre. Now, just on a side note, if anybody needs someone to knock someone else in a chess-related activity, I'm here. Yeah, okay. So it's a very it's an expanding oh, for fuck's sake, my brain is dead, and it's an expanding genre is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued by chess boxing in general. I was by Andrea Botes and Dina Belankaya, two of the most popular, I think the 3 hardest working female streamers at the moment. Actually, I should 4. There are 4 extremely hard.
May I make a prediction here, John? That you're going to mention Nemo in here.
Yes. Of course I am. She's one of the hardest working content creators, along with the Botes sisters. I'm going to count to 1. And Dina Belankaya, who's touring a lot of content on her YouTube channel. The Belankaya, quite a number of games in DuPont Circle in Washington, D.C. I think our most recent clips that's been sharing. and she has these lovely conversations with her opponent, the 14-year-old prodigy that I believe I saw her play just the other morning, if not this morning, and yesterday. And of course, the AK Nemsko, besides AK Nemsko, the other absolutely most energetic content creator out there, Anagram.
Yeah, I could have called that one.
Now, of course, we have the classic duo of Hikaru Nakamura battling it out with Levy. We want to congratulate him on Twitch, mind you. Just 1 million followers on Twitch. He has he has several more million, if not more, on YouTube than anyone. I think he surpassed Hikaru on as well.
I mean,
it's quite hard to believe.
He surpassed Hikaru on YouTube a very, very long time. But
yeah, if you had to name two more on YouTube that are the most popular among the men, it's just like it's hard to pick one.
Yeah, he's hidden above a rim.
There, of course, is our mutual friend who absolutely has the quality recognition.
Chess coach
Andres Toth. Yeah, Andres Toth. He's easily. I love his style. I will punch, but he doesn't pull any punch. Exactly a better chess player, and he outlaws very succinct.
So basically, what we're saying
top
here
three that I can think of
is that Chess Coach Andreas should be the most watched chess YouTuber by far. I mean, that's what.
Yeah, of the men, he is producing content slowly himself up to Levy's producing a lot of instructional content as well, but he does, a lot of current event stuff as we know. And Hikaru, of course, a lot of editorial. But can we think of another streamer worth mentioning on YouTube?
Alex,
I mean, obviously there are many to choose from. I'm just trying to think of who would be fourth. If I were to mention a fourth, the four women were not that hard. You could reach deep with Jessie February favorite.
I mean, definitely. I think Eric Rose,
Angelica Chessboard.
I think Eric Rose is obviously decent. He's in the same sort of.
Eric Rosen. Absolutely. He is easily the third. He's easily the third.
He's in a similar category to Levy Rosman, as he's more of an entertainment man. He does do a lot of good. He does do
plays gambits.
There's a lot of chess education to go around on his channel, So he's definitely up there. I think top 5 without a doubt. I mean, there's a few other ones.
No, I think he might be third behind Levy in terms of the number. Easily.
I mean, Agamator, obviously.
But we'll save those exact figures for a later podcast.
Sheer success, I think Agamator's got to be put in there somewhere. And then Chess Live.
Agamator was my inspiration. That is true. He's number 3, if not number 1 in his heart, because he was the original. I followed him from early on in Complete Match, for example. He'll have a playlist, Tal versus Botvinnik, literally go through every game. Tal does the same thing with the 1972 World Championship match, I booked the other thing. I'm not sure if he does every single, but when people write in and ask for something, he provides just like that at the drop of a hat.
Yes, he's very, very good at giving analysis of the topic we all want in here. So what was our next, just as a general reminder to me, John, what was our next news story?
We were going to talk about possible viewing for people that love watching Netflix or on YouTube. Yes. And I think you had a personal favorite.
I did. I think there's a better intro to be had here. If you loved Queen's Gambit and you thought, my goodness gracious, chess movies are the absolute best, well, we have compiled not an exhaustive, not a complete, not an even very well ranked list of things that we personally like. This is no real particular order. But one of my favorite chess movies of all time. It's not my favorite because of its wonderful ability to portray chess in a real to life way, but it's a very, very well done drama series set in the Cold War, in the Cold War. Between the USSR, the former Soviet Union, and the United States, and it encapsulates the drama of that time and the lens from which chess was kind of viewed by both of them. And it's
starring Bill Pullman.
Yes, it's starring Bill Pullman. The basic plot of the movie is that we have a retired professor who is eking out his living by hustling cards, and the Russians have assassinated the one of the US's great hopes to beat the communists. So basically the CIA kidnaps. Not a very great way of getting someone on your side, if I might. And there's better ways. They could have asked nicely and offered a lot of money, but they decided to kidnap him, and he has to. A Russian man is set to defect and to give him information, and he has to find who this Russian person is. Yeah, that is. I should probably have
The
started
coldest
off with
game
that.
is available.
Yeah. Okay. Now that I've butchered everyone's interest in this movie, it's now John's turn.
Found the movie very intriguing myself. My personal favorite from the literature sense, although most of us might remember many of the chess drawn from books, not unlike the probably most popular chess Netflix series of all time, because there is no other. But I enjoyed the illusion defense based on Defense by Nabokov, in a novel that was published before. It took 36 years to produce the movie, starring John Turturro, and it somewhat follows the life of Alekhine, the young Russian prodigy, deteriorating with a fissure-like breakdown for years. And John Turturro did such a job with this film, very well acted, very gripping. The ending with the wife of a romance at the end kind of breaks down. But the chess content is quite riveting, and the drama and plot all very good. They even discuss adjournments, because they have adjournment in this film, and I can't recall exactly how they pull this off. But Nabokov is most famous as a much censored book, Lolita, where I think the underage girl was involved. But the illusion defense. One afternoon, teaching classes on the east side, we were at the Jackson Hole. Grandmaster Michael Rode and I were sitting there. I was having my 2 or 3 Jackson Hole bark down from my old 4 Jackson Hole bark in the past when I was much younger. And John Turturro and his son were sitting in the next booth, and I'm looking at Michael Rode, and I don't know that Michael Rode had seen the movie, but I waited very patiently for them to their lunch. He was paying the check, and I finally worked up the gumption to stop Mr. Turturro. Now, this never happened in New York. I've seen many celebrities on the street, many movie stars, many like Rod Stewart walking to Park West. New Yorkers never bother anyone. And I just had to ask him how he came about choose to play if you were a chess player. But he indicated that he wasn't so much of a chess player at times occurs, but that he'd chosen because of its basis in the novel by Nabokov. And then I let him be for part. But he definitely was bothered by me stopping him. He's having lunch with his son, even though I waited until they're leaving the cafe. The Jackson Hole is no longer there. It didn't survive COVID, of course. But it was quite the encounter, and I was hoping to get a much better answer, as he's been in many, many other great and classic, both comedy-wise and dramatic-wise.
It is understandable a little bit, but it is also understandable that you're looking. You want some answers, because he is a great artist, and he did do an amazing portrayal. I also have watched Illusion Defense. I thought it was a very, very good picture. The whole thing of it is that the dude is a little bit. He's a savant. He probably has some slight mental health issues, and he's a little bit socially inept, based on some sort of degree of autism. It shows him struggling. Come out at the end. It's a very, very good hero's journey from a likable, simple man trying to make his way through the world.
Mm-hmm. As a successful grandmaster, he does have a wife, and he does seem to have something of a life. And, and it is actually a little bit of his wife, the hero, in the end.
I mean,
But I hope everybody gives a chance to track those movies down, and might see them rise a little bit in popularity, spread them by word of.
In 2000, released in the UK, and so it is a little bit of an older movie, but it is still very, very well acted, very, very, very well directed, and a good couple of hours if you've got some time lying around.
And if I were to pick a second, since this podcast is turning out to be relatively succinct, I would also happen to Tobey Maguire, Mr. X.
That's Spider-Man.
Is not really a chess player, aka Spider-Man. if you haven't seen Spider-Man 3, I'm not going to spoil it, but Andrew Garfield,
If you
McGuire, and
haven't seen it, it's your fault. We shouldn't be need to,
yeah,
spoilers, shouldn't be John's department. You should have watched it already.
that's right. But Tobey Maguire apparently is not a chess player either, but he tried to get the Pawn Sacrifice produced 15. It took him close to 2 decades to bring it to film. And it was a pet project of his because the journey of Fisher fascinated him, despite overcoming the adversity of I'm not going to put any spoilers in necessarily, but I'll tell you a secret. He does win the world championship in the end, Bobby Fischer.
Goodness, I mean, I would never have
and
seen
it
that coming.
it covers the world championship match most succinctly. The first 6 games very, very well. In fact, I had to go back and fact check that happened, compresses time and skews some events with some players in order to compress that time. But overall, when it comes down to Spassky and all of that, the movie does Hollywoodize the Russian delegate and all of that. It's pretty well acted by Liv Schreiber.
It is also worth
as Spassky.
It is also worth mentioning that the Boris Spassky is played by Sabretooth, who was another man in the Marvel universe. So it's Spider-Man versus Sabretooth. Yeah,
Spider-Man versus Sabretooth. And given that Fisher was actually over 6 feet tall, I believe he was actually 6'2" or 6'3", and roughly the same height as Spassky, I believe. Interestingly enough, Tobey Maguire is nowhere near that height to struggle with Tom in the vertical challenge department.
It's a terrible place to be. And the 5'7" era,
I don't think he's 5'7" even.
Oh, damn.
I think he's 5'5".
Damn, I should become a Hollywood actor at that rate. You don't have to be tall. Woo.
You don't have to be tall, but it helps.
Yes. It is rumored, in fact, that Tom Cruise only accepts female leads who are about the same height as he is.
That is an interesting observation. Obviously, this wasn't the case with Kidman. In fact, I literally ran into Tom leaving his hotel, which spans from 59th Street to 58th Street. As I was leaving the hotel, a fellow much shorter than me barrels in a hurry and excuses himself. He's extremely polite, all of that, but I could, the top of his head as himself and chest the building as I was, and trying to be as discreet as possible. And behind him, I noticed Nicole Kidman, and then I realized who it was that just ran in.
And so that's how John got into Scientology, ladies and gentlemen. No, I'm just kidding. But
exactly, it's a very surefire way to New York Scientology-based chess. Yes, I'm not advocating.
I thought you were going to make a joke about suing your competition into oblivion, but I mean that works as well.
No, it's a common conception to eliminate. In fact, I was wondering about the movie The Master, masterfully portrayed with Joaquin. Now I'm drawing a blank on Philip Seymour Hoffman, The Master. I thought that was very Scientology. It was a cross Scientology there in a way, as far as being drawn to that one. But I think for this week, that could be it. We may do something after round 4, along with some chess news updates aside from the World Cup, the round for the World Cup. I also should mention U.S. Championship has just finished, and Peng GM has tied for first. Andrew Tang, Grandmaster Andrew Tang, was dominating and leading this tournament for much of the way. He allowed others to catch up with the 8th round, and he tied for first with Alexei Sorokin. I don't know that they didn't have a playoff today, or do I know the result? They did have a playoff for first, but closely following was held in Grand Rapids, were Grandmasters David Brodsky and Victor of the Ukraine, with a host of very strong players, buddy international master Sarkar in the same point bracket, 7.5 points, second, 8th place, and Srivachov, another grandmaster, with Sharvesh Deviprasad as well. Very strong. Beyond that, Jason Liang unfortunately fell away, and almost 8 out of 9 won it. Jason Liang fell away in the last 2 rounds, only getting a half a point out of his final, losing to Alexei Sorokin in the last round, top tiebreak, along with Varuzhin Akobian and Joshua Postuma. Many may know from Mari Chess Twitch. Grandmaster Dmitry Sigurovich was in that group, Chicago. good friend and probably the number one trainer in Chicago, Ron Burnett of Tennessee. Ron Burnett was assistant editor of Chess Life magazine back along with myself. Ron Burnett took care of most of the technical editing while I was the assistant editor because I did not dare to necessarily tackle some of the Leonid Schenk, let alone Jeremy Solman articles that appeared in Chess Life magazine back. Aside from that, there were 20 players finished with 7 points or better. Those that were in that group lightly. Viewers of Chess Dojo Live will be happy to know that Kostya Kavutsky finished with 6.5 points in the group shortly behind those tied for 9. And Brewington Hardaway, aspiring young master, also plowing his way. I'm not sure that he has a grandmaster norm, so I'm not going to stick my neck out on that one. We're looking to see how all of these players do. I'm very happy for their result. US Open, by the way, is one massive schedule where grandmasters are in the same section, the lowest rated of players, and the cutoff in the first round of 9 is usually about 1,800 players will be playing grandmaster, and the unrateds and lowest will be playing the highest, the 7th first round, and then it tightens up all the way to the 9th round. And if you were to play a grandmaster or an international master or a titled player in classic, relatively inexpensive event, only $60 or $80, I don't it's gone up that much. It could be $100 at this point, but I remember paying almost a nominal fee back in the day when I played my last US Open 2000, sworn them off until I become a better player, until the Chess Federation becomes the US Chess Federation, more compensation. That's all. I'm just going to leave it at that. Hey, I see an old buddy of mine, Gregory Marxon, who I believe is a pianist by trade. Gregory Marxon, who is at his floor of 2,200. He was actually very close to 2,400 at one time. I believe he could have been over 2,400. Gregory Marxon also, and that I had a record Marxon. Happy to see that he finished in the top. Kieran Nasta, a very strong young junior, also finished 6.5 points. Kieran Nasta and I attended the International Chess Academy enough. Kieran Nasta also studies chess regularly and trains very hard. I sit there to win it.
Very good, very good.
Good job, Kieran.
Oh, good job. Yeah, amen. So John, have we, because chess is on most of our minds, if we are chess players and we are trying to get better at this wonderful game, have you got any short and beautiful advice for daily advice that you would give to someone if they asked you about it?
Well, I was actually telling a student the other day how playing every day slightly slower games, not too rapid at games. You can learn from them. I would say if you're playing 5-3 games or games along those lines, 10 plus 5 games that allow you to at least try to register your mistakes and give yourself quality chess worth analyzing. Back in the early days of Mark Arnold, quite some time, I actually noticed that for every game that he played online, and he would play 30 slow variety or of a slow nature, he actually gained like 1 rating point of strength for every game that he played. Easily every weekend. He would always gain 30 throughout the early days, gaining 500 on average or more for the first several years. 2000, I started working first grade. At the end of his grade 1, he was about 700. And then by 4th grade, he was knocking on the door of 20. And he'd won every nationals at that point routinely. He won the grade national, the elementary national through from 2nd grade in December of 2000 all the way through 4th grade, almost without a hitch. But he did it by playing slow, regular games and analyzing every day.
Okay, so quality over quantity is the aim of the game, that you would say.
Absolutely.
In summary.
Quality over quantity. And to play steadily every day. And remember to analyze your games. Actually, and looking for your mistakes for yourself. I think I might have missed a podcast, but try to look for the mistakes yourself. Only then, perhaps later, try to get the truth behind what those actions were. If you don't do it for yourself, then you will have nothing to compare with what the engine. If you only look at what the engine tells you without using critical skills, unfortunately, or being told that you made a mistake rather than trying to figure out if that was quality. Sometimes I would have back in the day this circle 2 or 3 moves that they felt were the game, the ones that changed the evaluation position for their side and their opponent's side. And by paying attention to those on their own, by the way, they would all have to enter their own games into ChessBase. They would analyze their games and necessarily have access to an engine. At the time I deactivated the feature, and no one was allowed to use an engine 100 in general. At the time they had to analyze their games themselves, try to find the critical errors, try to find them shifts of, the initiative or losing material or register the overlooking of tactic that. But if you play every day, quality chess, you will prevail in the long run, steadily and certainly, like the hare and the tortoise. It's much better to play games where you can catalog patterns, catalog mistakes, catalog your improvement of catalog your pawn structure, how well you convert that.
There is a wonderful, now that Chess.com has acquired Chess, whether or not that's good or not, it's a different story. But Chess.com has got this feature now where you can connect your Chessable account to your Chess.com account. So every time you missed a tactic in a game, it will show you the tactics that you missed, and it'll drill you on them until you begin to see those sort of tactical patterns. And I bring that up because we haven't sold our soul to Chessable yet, and we goddamn need to. Now, but yes, that is. But yes, okay. So John,
originally I had connected. I think about a year and a half to 2 years ago, I connected chess account, and every day I would do those tactics from the game. Every Monday or once support the chess games into a literally self-created chessable tactic. The same way now with chess.com, that available then, it disappeared for a while, and now it is back. Basically plug in and log into your chess.com or accounts, and basically it pulls all of your games and then scours them for the game changes based on tactical opportunity, and you learn those patterns you might have and review them.
So John, have you got any last thoughts before we go on absolutely anything in the chess world that you feel needs some attention?
Well, I do believe that if you're not watching some of the very instructive commentary and content on the World Cup, you are missing out. There's quite a bit to be learned from the various ups and downs and ins and outs the games cup. Is all of these players the opportunity for 206 of the men to fight spot in the World Championship candidates tournament, and for 3 of the women among 103 to fight for a spot in the women's World Championship cycles tournament that will be held sometime next year.
Okay. I think that almost wraps up the most essential parts of this podcast. The only things that I really have to say is check out Master Chess Dojo on Twitch at Master Chess Dojo, capitals on every single word. I also stream on Twitch, and now if you do check us out on Twitch, please tell us. It gives an unimaginable boost to our egos. And
please tell your friends about the podcast. Share by word of mouth.
Yep. Or just use the link. Word of mouth is only as good as that it comes with.
That's right.
Yes. So, by the way, Chess Chopin is not with us today because he's not with us today. I have no idea why. We'll ask him next time. We'll grill him on his unattended. But yes, next time we'll bring up some. We'll bring up some specific stuff. We'll ask him about his favorite chess movie of all time. And on the last thought, if you do have any topics for us to talk about, or anything you really want to know from a national master and one of the best chess trainers in America, then do ask us, because we are very, very, very happy to get.
Thank you.
So on this last note, we thank you for listening, and I hope you really have the best day that you absolutely can. God bless, and be at peace.
Thank you, Rogan. And everyone, please enjoy round 4. And we'll have a future podcast soon with the round 4 of that. Thank you all for listening. Good night.